universe isn't something that happens to you, it reflects you. Not through wishful thinking, but through the way your mind interprets every challenge, every setback. Your perception isn't just an opinion, it forges your reality, a truth echoed by ancient Stoics and proven by the resilience of men who've stared down chaos. You don't change the world by yelling at it. You change it by mastering the only territory you truly own, your mind. This isn't just philosophy, it's the battle plan for any man tired of being tossed around by circumstance. In this video, we're going deep into how your perception sculpts your reality, how Stoic discipline hardens your inner core, and why your inner peace isn't a luxury, it's your ultimate power. External storms become irrelevant when you've built an unshakable calm within. Every obstacle is neutral. You assign its weight. That's the bedrock of Stoicism. Not escaping the fight, but standing firm in the arena. To command your thoughts, not be commanded by them. We'll break down actionable, daily Stoic strategies to seize back your focus, cut through the noise, and build a life defined by clarity and control. If you're ready to take ownership of your mind and stop being dictated by the chaos, hit like. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you know your mindset can reshape everything. And stay until the end. This single perspective shift could be the armor you've been searching for. Let's begin, because the universe you experience is waiting for your command, forged in the stillness of your mind. 1. It's not the world, it's how you see it. Most men don't need their circumstances to change, they need their eyes to open. That's the hard truth. You're not being crushed by the world, you're being crushed by the story you keep telling yourself about it. The event isn't your problem, the meaning you gave it is. You lost your job, she walked away, someone betrayed you, those are facts. But the suffering, that's perception. And until you understand this, you'll keep blaming the storm instead of building the strength to walk through it. Stoicism doesn't sugarcoat pain. It exposes the lie that pain equals defeat. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's not a feel-good quote. That's a demand for accountability. Here's what that means for you right now. If you keep interpreting setbacks as personal attacks, you'll stay emotionally weak. But if you shift your lens, the same setback becomes training. It becomes the exact pressure that builds your core. The moment you stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "What can this teach me?" your entire posture shifts from passive to powerful. It's the same world, you just stepped into it differently. Think of Walt Disney. People laughed at him, said he wasn't creative, said he lacked imagination, told him he'd never make money with a cartoon mouse. He was broke, alone, rejected. But here's the difference. He didn't internalize their opinions as reality. He didn't let rejection define him. His perception was stronger than their ridicule. That's why we're still saying his name. His vision didn't survive because the world was kind. It survived because he chose to see criticism as clarity, not condemnation. You've got the same choice. Every day, your brain scans the world for meaning. It's automatic. But what isn't automatic is the meaning you allow to settle. You can't stop pain from showing up, but you can stop handing it the microphone. The man who learns to pause before reacting, to reframe before responding, becomes someone life can't rattle. Because reality bends, not by force, but by perception. That's not spiritual fluff. That's a cognitive strategy. That's the battlefield of modern masculinity. So, what do you do today? Start small. The next time something frustrates you, don't react. Name it. Question it. Ask, is this really a threat, or am I just interpreting it that way? Then breathe. Reset. Respond with intention, not impulse. And if you fail, do it again. Stoic strength isn't perfection, it's persistence in the right direction. The world isn't changing, but your mind can. And when it does, everything around you starts to move differently. Not because the universe shifted, but because you did. You stopped letting the storm dictate your story. You started using your eyes like a weapon. Because perception isn't soft, it's power. And in a world that wants to provoke you, the calmest man in the room controls the outcome. 2. Own your perception. Own your life. If you can't command your perception, you'll be a prisoner in a world that exists only in your head. That's not philosophy, it's a fact. Most men are not defeated by circumstances. They're defeated by how they perceive those circumstances. And that's a quiet death because it feels like truth, but it's just an unchecked thought, dressed in emotion, ruling your reality. The Stoics didn't waste time fighting things they couldn't control. They fought to control their judgment, because perception is the first battle. Lose it, and you lose the war. The mind doesn't just react, it assigns meaning. That means your mental suffering isn't an automatic consequence of what's happening around you. It's the result of how you've chosen to interpret it. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them." And modern science echoes the same truth. Perception literally rewires your neural patterns, affecting what you notice, how you respond, and what becomes possible. So if your life feels chaotic, maybe it's not the world. It's the lens you're refusing to change. Look at James Stockdale, American pilot, prisoner of war in Vietnam, tortured for years, kept in solitary confinement. He couldn't change his cell, his captors, or the pain, but he changed how he saw them. He said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality." Stockdale survived because he separated what he could control, his attitude, his beliefs, his will, from what he couldn't. And that clarity kept him alive. Can you do the same? The problem is most men let their perception run wild. They let fear paint every situation as catastrophic. They let their ego distort every criticism as an attack, and they label every discomfort as injustice. But Stoicism cuts through the noise. It says, pause. Don't trust the first story your brain tells you. Interrogate it. Ask, is this real or is this just my mind reacting? That one question is a weapon, and if you train with it daily, it rewires how you show up. Calmer, clearer, harder to provoke. Here's something you can do right now. For the next 24 hours, treat every emotional reaction as a signal, not a truth. Don't act on it, don't suppress it. Just ask, what am I assuming here? You'll be shocked how many of your triggers are built on weak foundations, false assumptions, imagined threats, misplaced expectations. And once you see that, you stop being a slave to reaction. You start becoming a man of response. That's power. That's leadership of yourself first. Perception is the front gate. Everything in your life either passes through it distorted or enters with clarity. If you want a sharper life, sharpen your lens. This isn't about being cold or detached. It's about being clear. And clarity is the one tool life can't take from you. Not your boss, not your ex, not the market, not the government, just you. So the next time the world tries to get under your skin, ask yourself this. Is this real, or is this just my interpretation screaming for attention? Then choose stillness. Choose to see what matters and let the rest pass. Because the man who owns his perception doesn't just survive, he steers. And every man who steers his mind is already altering his universe. 3. Acceptance sets you free. There's real power in knowing what not to fight. Because the man who knows what's outside his control can finally focus on what's inside his command. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And in a world where noise, opinion, and uncertainty surround you at every turn, clarity is strength. That's what acceptance is. Not resignation, but strategy. You don't surrender to life's chaos. You stop wasting energy on battles that don't belong to you. Epictetus said it best, what's beyond your control is not your concern. That line isn't cold, it's liberating. It clears the fog. It shows you where your time, your effort, and your discipline should actually go, within. Because when a man finally stops trying to bend the universe and starts working on bending himself, he becomes dangerous, in the best way. Let's bring this into the real world. After a public scandal and multiple injuries, most people believed Tiger Woods was done, a fallen icon, a name to remember, not one to watch. But Tiger refused to fight what he couldn't change, the public opinion, the media frenzy, the broken body. Instead, he focused inward. He accepted the brutal facts, he rebuilt his mind, then his body, and then his game. 10 years after his last major victory, he rose again to win the 2019 Masters. Not because the world gave him a second chance, but because he gave it to himself. This is what Stoic acceptance looks like in action. It's not silence, it's not softness, it's clarity under pressure. It's the decision to stop wasting your mental firepower on external nonsense and redirect it toward what matters: your habits, your responses, your code. Because trying to control the uncontrollable is how most men lose their edge. They burn out trying to change the economy, someone else's opinion, or the past. Meanwhile, their own thoughts go undisciplined. Their actions become reactive. Their time gets hijacked by things they can't touch. That's not a strength, that's confusion. You want to shift your reality today? Stop arguing with it. Accept where you are without flinching. Acceptance doesn't mean you love where you're at. It means you're done lying about it. And only from that honesty can true change begin. That's where Stoicism meets real action. You acknowledge the truth of your current position, and then you fight like hell for what you can change: your discipline, your routine, your attitude, your endurance. So what do you actually do with this? You take 5 minutes today. Sit in silence. No phone, no music. Ask yourself, what am I still trying to control that is clearly outside of me? Name it. Write it down. Then make a promise to stop feeding it your energy. Instead, choose one thing that is in your hands today. Attack it with full focus. You'll be shocked at how much lighter your mind feels when you stop trying to win battles that don't belong to you. The man who accepts his limitations with clarity becomes limitless in action. He doesn't need perfect conditions. He doesn't waste time wishing things were easier. He trains himself to be stronger, sharper, and unshakable, regardless of the conditions. Because in a world built on distraction and emotional chaos, your ability to stay centered isn't passive, it's lethal. So stop resisting what is. Start responding from who you choose to be. And when life tests you, as it always will, you'll already be forged in stillness, ready, focused, unbothered, unbreakable. 4. Your peace creates your universe. You don't need the world to calm down. You need to calm yourself down. Because peace isn't a luxury, it's a weapon. In a society that thrives on noise, panic, and emotional chaos, the man who stays composed becomes untouchable. Your inner peace is not a byproduct of comfort. It's the result of conscious discipline. You build it. You guard it. You lead with it. And once you do, the way you experience the world changes, even if the world itself stays brutal. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who led armies and governed an empire during plague, betrayal, and war, wrote, "If you are troubled by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." He wasn't speaking from theory. He was speaking from within the fire. He didn't retreat from responsibility, but he refused to let the chaos around him dictate the calm within. That's how a man walks through hell and doesn't burn. Today, men are bombarded with stress from every direction: career uncertainty, relationship breakdowns, online distractions, and financial instability. The average guy wakes up already overwhelmed, already reactive. And the worst part? Most of it isn't real. It's noise created by mental clutter. When you lack mental clarity, even the smallest inconvenience feels like a war. But when you build inner stillness, even the storm loses its sting. Your peace creates your universe, not because you're delusional, but because you've finally taken ownership of what truly belongs to you, your internal response. Now think of a man like Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, combat leader. In the middle of battlefield confusion, where lives were at stake and bullets were flying, he didn't panic. He got quiet, because that stillness wasn't passive. It was power. He trained his mind to stay calm so his men could survive. That level of calm didn't come from the battlefield. It came from years of mental discipline, forged in the small decisions. Waking up at 4:30 a.m., training when no one was watching, taking ownership without complaint. You think your stress is overwhelming? Try leading a team through combat. Then realize, calm isn't gifted to anyone. It's built, and it starts in your daily mindset. Here's what you can do today. Block out 15 minutes. No phone, no noise. Just sit with your thoughts. Don't react. Don't distract. Just watch what comes up. It'll be uncomfortable at first because silence exposes what you've buried. But that's the point. You can't control what you refuse to confront. Then write down the 3 thoughts that keep showing up and ask yourself, do these deserve my energy? That single question, repeated daily, begins the process of reclaiming your mental terrain. Because here's the truth. The calmest man in the room isn't the weakest. He's the most dangerous. He sees what others miss. He doesn't speak just to be heard. He speaks when it counts. He doesn't chase attention. He radiates presence. And that kind of man isn't molded by external validation. He's carved from within. You want to lead? You want clarity? You want to feel powerful in a world that profits from your distraction? Then earn your stillness. Because when you own your inner space, nothing outside can own you. That's not just stoicism, that's survival. And in today's world, the man who keeps his peace keeps his power. 5. Act with virtue. Change what matters. The world doesn't need another loud man. It needs a man who acts with quiet honor when no one's watching. In a time where so many are chasing validation, applause, and shortcuts to visibility, the real ones choose a different path. Stoicism teaches that virtue isn't for show, it's for strength. You don't act right to look good. You act rightly because it's the only thing that builds unshakable integrity. And that's a currency the world can't counterfeit. Aurelius didn't sit on the throne, hoping people would praise him for restraint. He wrote to himself daily, reminding his own mind to stay clear, just, and disciplined. He ruled an empire, but he fought the same internal battles you do: ego, anger, fear, distraction. And what made him powerful wasn't the crown. It was the consistency of choosing virtue over impulse, even when no one else held him accountable. The same choice is in front of you every single day. Here's the thing. The modern world confuses virtue with weakness. You tell the truth, you're too soft. You show restraint, they call it lack of confidence. You do the right thing when it's hard, and people think you're naive. But deep down, everyone recognizes something different when they see a man who holds the line. Not a man who performs, but one who's forged in discipline. Because when you act with principle, you don't just influence your own direction, you anchor the chaos around you. Take a basic example. A man walks into a workplace full of gossip, under-the-table deals, and corner cutting. He doesn't preach, he doesn't attack, he just does his job with consistency, shows up early, finishes what he starts, speaks with respect, and owns his mistakes. Over time, people notice. Not because he demands it, but because integrity always casts a long shadow. One of those colleagues eventually steps up their standards. A junior watches silently, mimics the ethic. The team shifts, not overnight, but it starts. Why? Not because one man controlled the group, but because one man controlled himself. Virtue is not just moral decoration, it's a strategy. In a world where distraction is monetized, where emotion is weaponized, and where everyone's reacting, you become powerful when you choose to be steady, intentional, and principled. That doesn't mean you're flawless. It means you don't negotiate with what you know is right. And when you fail, you reset, without shame, without excuses. You don't look outward for rescue. You correct your own course. Practical? Yes. Here's what you do today. Choose one decision, big or small, and run it through this filter. Does this align with the kind of man I say I am? If the answer is no, don't do it. Doesn't matter if it costs you approval, speed, or convenience. What you protect in that moment is your center. You reinforce to your mind that you're not led by noise. You lead with clarity, you lead with virtue. And that kind of leadership is rare, because most men trade their values for comfort. But the Stoic man doesn't flinch. You don't need to fix the world. You need to stand solid in it. Power begins, not from forcing change outside, but from becoming a man who acts with purpose inside. Because when the storm hits, people look for someone who doesn't move. Not because he's the loudest, but because he's the one who knows exactly where he stands. You see yourself in that man? Good. Then act like him today. Not someday, today. 6. Let go of control. Do what's right. You don't need more control over life. You need more control over yourself. The idea that peace comes from forcing the world to cooperate is an illusion that breaks men daily. Because life doesn't ask for your permission, it moves, it shifts, it hits. And when it does, the man who's built his identity around predictable outcomes falls fast. But the one who builds around principles, the one who leads with action, not attachment, he stays standing, because he never tied his worth to what he couldn't command. Stoicism teaches that outcomes are not your responsibility. Only your choices are. You don't get to decide how people treat you. You don't get to script the economy, the weather, or the battlefield. But you do decide if you show up with integrity, if you act with clarity, and if you follow through with discipline when it's inconvenient. That's what makes a man solid in a collapsing culture. Not results, not applause, but commitment to right action, even when the reward never comes. It's like building a house on rock instead of sand. The man attached to results builds on sand. Every time something doesn't go his way, he breaks, he folds, he blames. But the man who builds on principles, he adapts, he adjusts, and most importantly, he never negotiates with his values, even when the pressure rises. Because he didn't act for success, he acted for alignment. You can see this in the story of Seneca, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, advisor to an emperor, and one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He lost everything, not once, but multiple times. He was exiled, he was betrayed. Eventually, he was ordered to take his own life by the very regime he once served. Yet Seneca didn't protest, he didn't beg, he met death as he met life, with calm, with reason, with dignity. Because for him, living rightly had always been more important than living long. He said, "A good character, when established, becomes a refuge against misfortune." Not fantasy, not idealism, just steel discipline in motion. Let's bring it to the present. Picture a boxer stepping into the ring. He's trained for months, but the opponent changes last minute, bigger, meaner, and everyone watching doubts him. If he's outcome-driven, he panics. If he's identity-driven, he holds his ground. Because what's changed is the opponent, not the fighter's code. That's you in life. The opponent might be a job loss, a breakup, or a betrayal, but your stance doesn't shift with circumstances. Your values stay firm, because your goal isn't comfort, it's character. So, what do you do today? Drop the illusion that you need everything go your way to stay grounded. Write down one area in your life where you've been trying too hard to control the outcome. Then next to it, write what's actually yours to command: your preparation, your behavior, your patience, your perseverance. That's your battlefield. Stop wasting energy beyond the line. When you act based on outcomes, your peace becomes fragile. But when you act based on values, your peace becomes unshakable. You don't need to win every fight. You just need to know that you showed up without compromising who you are. That's Stoicism in practice. That's what separates men who live on impulse from men who live on principle. One survives by reacting, the other leads by choice. Which one are you becoming? Because the moment you stop trying to control everything and start doing what's right regardless, you reclaim the only kind of control that ever mattered, the kind that can't be taken. 7. Stand still. Let the storm pass. Sometimes the strongest move a man can make is to not move at all. While the world scrambles, reacts, over-explains, and overreaches, the man who stands still, mentally and morally, becomes the anchor in chaos. He's not passive, he's precise, because stillness is not the absence of power, it's the concentration of it. And in a world that constantly demands your reaction, your ability to remain centered becomes a declaration: I will not be moved by noise. The Stoics understood this with brutal clarity. They didn't chase calm conditions, they forged calm character. When Marcus Aurelius was leading Rome during plague, betrayal, and war, he wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." He didn't ask for the storm to stop. He simply refused to be swept away by it. That's not poetry. It's practice. It's posture. It's the refusal to hand over your mind every time life throws a wave. Now picture this. You're in the middle of a street as a storm rolls in. Rain slashes sideways, wind howls like a threat. Everyone around you runs, hides, and panics. But you don't flinch. You plant your feet, you breathe. You feel the chaos without becoming it. You become the still point in a spinning world. That's the metaphor, but the application is real. Because the same thing happens every day in your actual life. A bad email, an accusation, a missed opportunity, someone tests your limits, and your body wants to react. But if you've trained your inner ground to be solid, you don't respond with emotion, you respond with intention. That is presence, that is power. Stoic strength doesn't look loud, it looks unshakable. It's in the man who listens before he speaks, who pauses before he judges, who doesn't confuse urgency with importance, and who walks into a room without needing attention. Because his presence already demands it. That kind of strength is not built through comfort. It's built through repetition, through choosing the higher response again and again until it becomes instinct. Now let's talk action. If you want to practice this, you need to start training against reactivity. One exercise. Next time you're about to respond to something triggering, don't wait 10 seconds, just 10. In those seconds, watch your emotions like clouds. Let them pass without chasing them. Then ask yourself, what would a stronger version of me do here? Not the louder version, not the more aggressive one, the one that's rooted, still, clear. And then do that. That's how stillness stops being a theory and becomes your default setting. Because stillness isn't about silence, it's about the signal. It tells the world you are no longer available to be manipulated by chaos. It tells your nervous system that you are not prey. And it tells your mind that it works for you, not the other way around. You don't panic when people gossip. You don't spiral when things break. You don't chase when someone pulls away. You stand, you breathe, you act with calm precision. And because of that, life begins to flow differently around you. Not because it got easier, but because you got unshakable. You see yourself in that? Good. Then today, stop proving your strength with a reaction. Prove it with composure. Let the world shout, spin, push, and you simply stand. Not because you're stubborn, but because you've trained yourself to only move when it matters. And when you do, the storm won't change who you are. It'll only reveal how strong you've already become. The universe you experience is not defined by events. It's defined by how you choose to interpret them. That choice, though often overlooked, is where your true power lives. As we've explored, it isn't about controlling the world outside of you. It's about mastering the world within. Your perception, your discipline, your virtue, and your stillness. These are not abstract ideals. They are daily practices, sharpened in the quiet, forged in resistance, proven in how you respond when things don't go your way. Each principle we've discussed, from owning your perception to choosing right action, from accepting what you cannot control to remaining unmoved in the storm, leads to one truth. Your mindset alters your universe, not magically, but methodically. Through clarity, through control, through inner peace that doesn't collapse under pressure. And this kind of peace is not given, it's earned. You build it through deliberate effort, by shifting your focus from reaction to responsibility, from chaos to calm, from distraction to alignment. Begin now. Choose one concept from this video, just one, and live it today. Maybe it's pausing before you react. Maybe it's acting with integrity even when no one sees. Maybe it's sitting with discomfort rather than escaping it. Start there. Keep going. Do it again tomorrow. Over time, you'll notice that your world didn't change. You did, and that changed everything. If any part of this message spoke to you, I encourage you to share your experience in the comments. What resonated? Where are you applying it? What storm are you choosing to stand through today? Because the more we train together in this way of thought, the more unshakable we become. Not just as individuals, but as a community of men who choose discipline over disorder and wisdom over reaction. That is how you shape a different world, from the inside out.